All right, and we're back. As promised, we started with a fun little intro video. That's our first time testing it out. Hopefully, it looks good. I might change a little bit for the next episode or the one after that. We're thinking of making a few adjustments, but hopefully, it was snappy and you all liked it. How's your week been, Chandler?
This week's been great. We have a lot to talk about. We'll get into that a little bit later, but I'm riding quite a big high this week.
There's a lot to be excited about this week, but I'm sure a lot of you saw my Solana phone, Saga phone unboxing video. I have it here. It's a fun little device to play around with. Expect a full review soon. Everyone at the Astaria team and on Twitter has sort of been giving me shit for this, but I think it's important to sort of promote, or rather not promote, but to use and try out all forms of innovation. I'm super impressed that the Solana team worked together to build a phone. I think that's great news. I think it's bullish. I think that's how we onboard more users. Although we're not really, or I'm not really a Solana fan, I should say, it's still great to play around with this thing. So are you going to buy one, Chandler? Is this on your list?
That is not on my list. The day Ledger come out with the phone is the day I might consider that, or Apple just acquires Ledger and includes some of that tech in their phones, or build it out themselves.
That would be nice. Did you see the
That
Ledger
would be
stacks?
Yes, I did. That was part of the thinking I had around this. And then there was also the new ledger that's coming out as well is also being designed by an ex-Apple designer, if I believe so correctly. Yeah.
I think that's this
Yes,
one, right?
this is the exact one I'm talking about. Yes, you're right. I actually have a
I
question for you though, Justin. I'm quite curious as to what it is like daily driving the phone. I think from on a surface level, it looks like a very standard Android phone. Besides, the hardware integration on the actual device itself, are you noticing much software improvements?
Yeah, so I'm not daily driving it. I'm an iPhone user. I'm a American and we're obsessed with Apple and iMessage and I like candidly I bought this phone knowing I would never switch and be an Android user. I mean, unless I was blown out of the water. So I'm not using it as like my day-to-day phone that I take with me and whatnot. I'm really just playing around with it to see what's there. And it almost feels like you can just like I don't think this is the phone for most people in crypto, but you can just sort of see the glimmer of what's to come in the future. Kind of like when the iPhone first came out before the App Store, like you could just when the App Store came out, you could just sort of see the potential. So I don't know if it'll focus here. Probably not. You can see they have what they call the dApp Store. There's like call it 20 Solana dApps that built apps for the phone, and it's very cool. So, the issue is I'm not a Solana user, so it's not like, there's a Uniswap app, right? It's not like there's an Aave app. So I'm not really able to do much that I would normally be doing, but you can sort of see how this is going to be the way that people interact with crypto in the future, where you have a secure wallet built on your phone, your biometric data, whether it's your Face ID or with a fingerprint scanner in this case, unlocks and signs messages for you. And that part's amazing. And then you can also see, and this is the advantage of Solana, transactions are so cheap. And if in the future everyone has these wallets on their phone that can secure their private key, you could imagine how, we might not need Venmo. It's a popular payment service in the US, or like PayPal. You can just send to someone's address, tap your finger, scan your face, and it comes out. Your private key signs that message and sends it. So you can see a glimmer of adoption there. It's still very early. Most people don't have to buy this phone. This is like if you want to test it out, have a good experience. But I would not recommend someone rushes out and buys it unless they're like very into the Solana ecosystem. So in other news, the other thing that's exciting us today is that Astaria is on mainnet. It's live. So we're doing a closed beta now. We will link the announcement below. But you can see here, this is astaria.xyz. If you head there now, the app is live. You can see that I have deposited a Astaria NFT and I've borrowed 0.1 ETH against it. And this is all happening live on mainnet. So extremely exciting. It's only in a closed beta phase now. Chandler, do you want to give an overview of how that closed beta is going to work?
Yeah, absolutely. And Justin, I think before we jump into it, I'm so excited to have Astaria out. This is what has excited me this whole week. This is why I'm riding high. You and I have spent close to a year building this out, and it's really nice just to have a product out there. We are in a beta phase at the moment, which is really important for us to talk about. So just a quick caveat, the beta phase, is a closed beta. We're writing loan terms against a very specific NFT that our team created, the LSD token. This LSD token is one that we will be distributing to a small part of our community. The token has no value. We're just going to be writing terms against that, just as a test for the ecosystem and the product life cycles. You can see the one that Justin has over here. He's got a 0.1 ETH loan against it, which is really, really cool. It's really great that we can basically have a live platform. If you are a member in the community that wants to be part of this testing, please let us know. We're very much interested in finding people that are willing to give us some feedback, spend some time clicking some buttons on the front end, taking out a loan, repaying the loan. This testing is super valuable to us as a team. And so if you are interested in being part of our beta, we'll happily include you into the next round of claims. And please just be aware that, just dropping your address in our Discord won't really help. We just want, people that are willing to qualify themselves and be willing to try out the platform. Added to the beta, we're playing a little bit of a community game. This LSD token has the moniker called a bad trip. And so we've got a light side and a dark side, two different teams that are going to be battling it out and for some various points. You can read the gameplay rules here. They'll be linked down below. I won't go too much into them. But at the end of the day, or at the end of the beta testing phase, one of the teams will win, and their bad trip LSD will turn into a good trip LSD. And anyone who had the token and tested out the Astaria platform during that time will be rewarded with this token. It's a nice badge of honor. We're very excited about having people try out the platform. So if you are interested, please reach out to the team in the Discord.
Awesome. So shall we pivot to the news this week? So first up, obviously regulatory chatter is sort of top of mind for everyone right now. And it looks like Coinbase is considering moving away from the US. So they just received a license for their exchange in Bermuda, as far as I know. And Bermuda is, I was just doing some research on this, very crypto friendly. About in 2018, I believe, they set digital asset regulations. And so companies can issue tokens from there. And there's just more clarity. So we will link this article below. But I think this is a good thing. I want Coinbase to stay in the US, but I think it's helpful for regulators and for employees of Coinbase, users of Coinbase, everyone to realize that, these are companies, right? Like they can move freely. They have the right to go to another country that has better regulations for them. This will, of course, if they were to do this and not offer an exchange to Americans, I don't think that's what's going to happen. But if it did happen, not ideal, but I think it will mean we'll probably catch up sooner, right? That the regulators will sort of set better regulations as a result of something like this. I don't think, to me, it doesn't really feel like a threat that, Coinbase saying like, we're going to leave if this doesn't work out. I think it's a smart move for their business. And I think it will lead to better regulatory clarity in the US. So yeah, what are your thoughts? Do you want to see Coinbase in Bermuda? Some nice weather there. Maybe they'll invite us to the offices. We can visit.
I feel like every exchange that sets up in one of the Bahamian countries are doomed to just use user funds and implode. We have a track record so far. But no, jokes aside, I don't think Coinbase is made up of the same things as what FTX was. And just kind of to get to your question, this I think is kind of a sad state to be in. The fact that Coinbase, the poster child of crypto in the US, is looking to move out. It really just does showcase the dire situation that the industry is in with regards to just getting regulatory clarity. I think some of the actions that the SEC have done running up to this decision or running up to this announcement saying that they are looking to move to Bermuda by suing the SEC, that's been actually something that they have done very recently as well, is just a play and a ploy to get some clarity, just not even just for crypto exchanges like Coinbase, that everyone agrees should be regulated, but the entire industry in itself. And so I think I always thought Coinbase was kind of boring, in DeFi summer, but right now, I think that they are probably one of the most interesting teams and companies to follow. And moves like this just make me think that they're in it for the long haul. They're in it for the right reasons. They're in it for the true innovation. And I kind of am really excited to see what happens and kind of what they do from a getting the clarity that we've all been desperate for the longest time. And I think
And also offering the products users want, right? So I think we talked about this a few weeks ago, but Coinbase erroneously or accidentally included a perpetuals tab for their trading product. For better or worse, consumers want perps, right? Yes, I'm sure most people lose money trading them, but there's nothing inherently wrong about them. It's like the products consumers want. They want to take out leverage. They want to be able to short tokens, long tokens. And you can't do that as a US exchange. So maybe with this Bermuda license, their non-US offering will offer the product consumers want, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, I think considering the fact that American policy at the moment, from just a political standpoint, is becoming a lot more protectionism based and kind of defending some of the American industries and growing new strategically important industries in America. I wonder how some of those discussions that are happening on that level is tying into the crypto discussion, given the inherent fact that cryptos are naturally global, naturally uncontrolled. I think that there may be some sort of, whether you call it conspiracy theory or whether you call it kind of direction from why there's been a lack of clarity. It could be attributed to something like that, and at least that's a plausible reason for mine. It would be the one that makes the most sense, but we've been in crypto enough to know that not everything makes the most amount of sense.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. But I think until we get clarity, we're going to see more and more companies sort of go to where they're appreciated and wanted. It just makes sense. But enough of regulations. I'm sure a lot of you all are bored of that topic, and it's sort of been played out. We wanted to talk about this article called "The Cosmosification of Ethereum." Of course, it'll be linked below. And this article puts out a very interesting theory. The TLDR of the thesis is long the Uniswap token, short Ethereum. I don't think they mean actually Uniswap in this case, but like your app token of choice. And the thesis basically can be summarized like the block space will soon be commoditized, and the real value that will drive metrics to your app, to your blockchain of choice will be the app. So the article basically says, like, as Uniswap as an example, if Uniswap was only deployed on XYZ chain, that's where all the value is going to go. That's where the user is going to go. And furthermore, like if the app has all the power, how can the blockchain sort of do its value extraction to basically pay for the blockchain to operate? So in Ethereum's case, you pay transaction fees. Most of those transaction fees get burnt or destroyed. It's almost like a share buyback for the network. Some of it goes to validators now with the new proof of stake system. But how can that, how can the charge be 1, 2, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, et cetera, dollars sustainably, right? And we're seeing that it can with the rise of L2s, other chains. And so this article makes the case, like, how are these layer ones going to capture value sustainably if transaction fees are going to get pushed down, if the apps have all the power and the apps are why people are using these chains? Where does the value accrue to? Does it accrue to the app or to the blockchain? And with things like EIP4844, which is a great technological invention, it basically means layer twos have to pay significantly less on gas to process transactions. How is the layer one going to accrue value then if, layer two transactions are basically brought down extremely low? So very interesting article because, we're not ETH maxis, but we're most aligned with Ethereum on this show. We think the vision there makes the most sense, but it's always good to get this other perspective. So what are your thoughts there? Are you longing Uni or DeFi tokens or app tokens and shorting Ethereum? Are you just doing more research, Chandler? Where are you at with all this?
Yeah, I am not taking this article's non-financial advice and its direction, but I'm not disagreeing with it either. I kind of think it's a there are points in here that make sense, and there are some that I think need a little bit more kind of, for lack of a better word, a metaphor to make sense, right? Like when when you're considering where the value gets driven, I think like the unit cost of a transaction in Ethereum was always X amount of dollars, and that's how we derive the value of what Ethereum could be, and what people are willing to buy and sell it for, and what people were willing to speculate on it, and that's always been one market. The other market is the ecosystem that drives the demand for Ethereum, and that needed to scale. So while we're going to have a unit cost, a significant unit cost of transactions drop down, the value capture that can increase will actually have a Cambrian explosion of value creation, right? It's like, when you had 1 megabit internet lines and then all of a sudden you had a gigabit internet line, the stuff that you could do was so much more interesting. And using that analogy, I kind of find it the same kind of analogy. You're going to have a pipeline that's a lot more robust. And so I think the value of settlement becomes a kind of a boring backwash concept, but the value is still there. It's extremely important to have that securitization layer. And I think that's where this article misses the point of one particular part of the Ethereum vision, is that Ethereum wants to be the global settlement layer of the world. And that settlement layer is boring technology. It's super powerful technology, but ultimately it's going to be boring. And so, I think that's actually the ultimate use case for Ethereum, but the value that it underpins and the value that it secures is going to be enormous. I mean, think about your bank transfers. You don't really care what your bank does with your $1,000 transfer. You only care that you could buy a Solana phone, right? With your transaction, you don't really care what happened in the background, right? You just
Actually, I
wanted
paid
this
for that
price.
with crypto. They accept USDC on the Solana network.
Exactly. So I think deriving value from applications is always going to be the move case. We're going to move to applications that people want to use, and that's where people's attentions are going to be. But it's always going to be settled on this piece of technology that's tested, robust, and super secure.
So let me ask you this. Here's the EIP4844 website. I know Coinbase is like participating in the building of this. The broad consensus is this is a great upgrade. I agree completely, right? Like we want to push L2 costs down. We want to make sure it's not $1 for a swap. It's a penny or a fraction of a penny for a swap. I think Proto-Danksharding EIP4844 will lower transaction fees by maybe one order of magnitude. So a 10x lower cost for transaction on layer twos in a good case scenario. This is obviously great, right? It's huge, but why is no one talking about the fact that the burn will go down drastically, right? If you look at, and I'll pull it up in just a second, the largest contributors to the burn now, which is partly paying for, or very much paying for Ethereum security, if that's going down, it's not inherently a bad thing, right? But it could lead to less security. You can see here on the ultrasound.money website, you can see Arbitrum is actually like the sixth or so largest user of gas in the last week. I'm sure OpenSea is down here too. OpenSea is a big user. That's less money for the security budget, right? It's less going to the burn. It's less contributing to ETH as a strong asset. I think in some ways it's exciting that no one's talking about this. No one's talking about the loss of the monetary benefit of 4844. But I don't know. I'm surprised it's not been a topic of conversation. Any thoughts there, Chandler?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's something that people really think about when they think of, when they think about Proto-Danksharding. By the way, Proto-Danksharding is a lot more than just simply making EIP 4844. There's a plethora of benefits that it brings that I think have a bit more consumer appeal, discussion appeal, but really making sure that that layer twos have a lot more throughput and are a lot cheaper to run, just inherently makes the whole scalability function and the whole theoretical maximum number of transactions that can be throughput a lot higher. And at the end of the day, I think it's like just exactly like how we went from one megabyte to a gigabit internet. The possibilities of what we can do are endless.
I must say, like, proud's not the right word, but it's refreshing that the crypto community is not saying like, no, don't push this through. Like, let's keep the burn as high it is now. Let's keep ETH super deflationary. Like, I feel like in some other ecosystems we might not see that, but in the Ethereum ecosystem, like people are very much aligned with the innovation. the builders, and it's not just about pumping the price. It's about like delivering the most useful product. And I think ultimately that's going to win out. At least you have to hope it is. Or like, what are we even doing in this space? So cheers to the Ethereum community for that. I do wonder if you're going to start to see more threads on Twitter about how 4844 is going to make ETH inflationary again or not as deflationary. We'll see, but it's something we're tracking, and we'll of course keep you updated on the podcast and how we're thinking about it and how the community is as well. With that, I think we'll transition to our third and final major topic. So I know Chandler has been following the MEV economics that were discussed at ETH Global. We will link this thread below, but Chandler, do you want to just give a very quick intro on why people should read this thread, what's happening in the MEV space, etc.?
Yeah, the MEV has been a concept that's happened as a result of just the kind of economic gain that you can get from having a position of power when you can order transactions. And back in the early days of MEV, it was sandwich attacks, front running, basically getting in your transaction before anyone else, and this became a extremely profitable industry. But the more you talk to actually genuine crypto natives about MEV, they don't really know too much about it. And so one of the things that I found was quite interesting about me learning about MEV was just how hard it was for you to get a good source of information for what it is, given that it's one of the most research topics at the moment. It's one of the most interesting. It's somewhat undefined. And so if you are someone that's really interested in like very nitty gritty maths type problems, coordination type problems. So whether you're a mathematician, a statistician, a game theorist, an economist, mechanism designer, MEV has something that grips you. And so I wanted to demonstrate what a really good thread looks like on just the latest of the who's who in MEV, some of the research that they're talking about, some of the discussions of what the definition of MEV is. This is a really great thread that we will link in the bottom. And I just find this to be one of the most, not fully comprehensible, but a very good overview of what MEV is in the space. And you can see it's a fairly long thread, even though the fact that the thread is super long, it is still a very short summary of what MEV is. And I think for anyone that wants to kind of figure out a really interesting problem in the space, where ZK Tech sounds a bit more moon maths like. This is a bit more personable, and the mechanics are a bit more real world, and you can get into it and figure some new and interesting ideas related to MEV.
Nice. Well, with that, we'll close out. We'll get back to working on Astaria. I'll get back to playing around with my Solana Saga phone. Hopefully, you guys will see a review on this YouTube channel of that soon from an iPhone user's perspective. And yeah, please feel free to use a comment or come to our Discord if you want to explore using Astaria and being on that beta test list. So thank you all so much for watching. Apologies that this video is a little late. Hopefully you liked the intro. Hopefully you had a good time listening and learned something, and we will talk to you all soon.